Ciao a tutti per un'altra diretta di Radio Birra dalla Belle Alliance. Oggi siamo per la seconda volta in diretta dall'estero. Avremo un ospite direttamente non da Dublino, dall'Irlanda, precisamente da Sligo, dove ha sede The White Hag. Avremo Joseph Kearns, che è il brewmaster, studioso birrificio irlandese. Siamo online dalla Belle Alliance con il sottofondo piuttosto sgradito nel mio caso di questo antipatico derby Juventus Torino, dove stiamo già perdendo dopo un minuto giù di lì, e naturalmente questa cosa non mi fa per niente piacere. Siamo però in diretta con i nostri clienti perché abbiamo in corso questo simpatico invece evento di San Patrignano dagli Stati Uniti all'Irlanda e viceversa, e abbiamo questo divertente menù sia per la cucina sia per la nostra linea di birre, dove ovviamente appare anche The White Hag. The White Hag che vi lancio fra poco, ma subito dopo la nostra sigla. Siamo qua in diretta, vediamo poi chi si collegherà oggi, che è un giorno un po' particolare, un sabato pomeriggio, dove c'è una Milano che si sta desertificando un po' alla volta grazie a un bellissimo sole che ci spinge tutti quanti al mare, salvo che bisogna ricordarsi che per andare a Genova ci vogliono tipo 6 ore, quindi forse non è così conveniente, e io vi inviterei tutti quanti a venire a bere una birra da queste parti, dove se non altro trovate il nostro nuovissimo Deor, appena autorizzato dalle pubbliche autorità milanesi. Quindi tanto spazio anche all'aperto. Speriamo di farne una specie di beer garden che un giorno diventi anche, come dire, permanente. Ma io sono qua subito a dividere lo schermo con Joseph. Ciao Paolo Erne, ciao Alessandro Pecciolini, ciao a tutti gli altri che si stanno collegando in questi minuti, e do il benvenuto a Joe. Hi Joe, how are you doing? We'll do this in English obviously, but I know that you hi, but I know that you speak a little Italian, so if you want to say ciao to all our followers, that will be great. Well, we will welcome. Yeah. So, how are you doing over there in
Ciao
Sligo?
Ragazzi.
Ciao.
Ciao
so, how
tutti.
is everything in Sligo? How is the COVID doing over there?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've heard of that, I guess. But
that's cool. If you don't know what you're talking about, I'm talking about, that's good for you. That means that things are pretty cool over there.
we're getting through it, and just waiting to be able to go back to life.
Yeah, I understand that. How was how did the COVID hit your business? You had to move things from kegs to cans or things like that?
Yeah, we together because all the pubs were closed. Probably same in Italy. But
yeah, I mean,
it just meant that we had to start doing a lot more canning, and which is more work. It takes longer to empty tanks into cans than it does into kegs. But in fairness, I think I'd say that our sales actually went up. We had more people sitting at home and nothing to do. I know if I was stuck at home, what I would do, and that would be drink beer and get fatter. So we had
yeah, I understand that.
Sales to keep us going, and
yeah, sure. It's basically the same thing that happened to some of our breweries over here, though we have some mixed feelings about that, because basically some of them weren't really prepared to switch their business to direct sales model, whereas most of them usually rely on distributors which were closed, and and obviously pubs, which luckily enough reopened mid-May with mixed fortunes again, depending on the areas. But yeah, we are alive and kicking, so we try our best to overcome the thing. Yeah. So the thing is, we have a little event today, which is based on quite surprisingly on Saint Patrick's. And why is that? Because obviously St. Patrick's was exactly when we were closed, so we didn't want to lose the opportunity to party again, and so we decided to move St. Patrick on the 4th of July. So the opportunity was to call you as an American brewer and Irish brewer as well, because you're American but you brew in Ireland, and party together with these funny excuses. So I have a Dark Druid with me.
Oh, nice.
Which is one of your last products, I think. So cheers. What is it? Oh, cool. Oh, that's probably more refreshing than mine, but cheers.
Is it hot there? Is it in Milan?
It is. It's absolutely hot. And we had a storm last night, but aside that, everything is okay. So so it's an excellent beer. You're using vanilla essence as well, yeah? Or is just
there's
natural...
vanilla in there.
All right.
And we do and like cane sugar, dark sugar, and caramelize the shit out of it, you know. So and then put a splash of vanilla at the end.
Right, it's still a very refreshing beer despite being sweet and full in the mouth, and very complex because it changes the mouthfeel between the beginning and the end of it. So all the flavor is in the nose and then it goes back in the mouth, and then it leaves you with a refreshing idea of coffee-like chocolate. Quite interesting.
Your viewers might be happy to know that the vanilla essence is sourced from Italy. So
all right, cool.
There's that. Yeah.
So,
but probably not the best beer for a hot day. But definitely
no, probably not.
For
but it was a good excuse to drink something of your production with you. So and it was the first thing that came out of my mind. So, but we have nine Irish craft beers online now, and 9 Americans. And the idea behind it was let's try to party together, Ireland and US, and see what happens. In a funny situation like the one that we are living at the moment. And besides that, the thing is, how did you make your decision to move to US from US to Ireland and brew over there instead of staying home? I'm not saying that you have to stay home, but basically, it's very funny to see a master brewer from US moving to Ireland and then sort of moving the craft market over there, which has been sitting for quite a long time and just recently sort of booming. So what was that?
I moved here with my family in 2014, and so the reason I did is kind of twofold. One, I had family ties to this part of the country. My grandparents were from about 40, 50 kilometers, maybe less from here. But also what it came down to, I was getting old back in Ohio, and I was literally living about 10 minutes from the hospital I was born in, and I said, if I'm going to go somewhere, I need to do it now. Before it's too late, before I'm too old and my kids are too old. And because my kids at the time were 1 year old and 3 years old, so it wasn't that they weren't in school. There wasn't a big deal. So I saw the opportunity to come here, and I was looking at the craft beer scene in this country, and it was still kind of in its infancy. So, and a lot of people think of beer when they think of Ireland. You know, there's a really famous brewery in Dublin, and that, you know, and obviously there's a big pub culture here, as you know, and but there wasn't really many craft breweries. When I moved here, I think there was only around about 20. And the styles that were being produced were all pretty standard: pale ale, red ale, stout. And so I saw an opportunity. There was obviously growing interest all over the world. Yeah. And, you know, just the same in Italy, there was this growing demand, but I felt like it hadn't quite yet hit in Ireland, and that it was a good opportunity to kind of try to come and make my mark on a young and burgeoning, you know, growing scene. And yeah, so we're still working towards.
Were you already brewing in US when you moved to Ireland? You had a previous experience as a brewmaster somewhere, or were you brewing for other breweries?
Yeah, so I started at a brewery that I'd say that the people in and around Milan have heard of, because I have personally seen the beer there. It's called Hop and Frog. And,
Hop and Frog, yeah.
Yeah, so I started there when I was in my young 20s, 2004. And so I was there for a couple of years until 2009, when we got a bottle there. Look at that guy. You might recognize it.
Cool. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, in 2009, when the kind of financial market collapsed, it sucked a lot of the small breweries with it. You know, there wasn't, people had lost their jobs or homes, and nobody really had a lot of money to spend on big expensive beers like Forest Crusher. So I was kind of my hours were reduced significantly, and I had to find work elsewhere because I had a mortgage to pay. I had a house of my own. So I left there and I went to another brewery called Thirsty Dog, and I was there for a little while, but only doing production, like management, bottling, and all that stuff. But at the same time, it was still a good learning experience to understand that part of the business and, you know, the packaging side. But then I was offered the opportunity to take over as brewmaster at a small brewery also in Ohio called Main Street Brewing Company. And it was a brew pub, so they had a restaurant as well. It was a small kit, like 500-liter kit, which was really good because that meant that I was brewing a lot. I was brewing often, and I was able to start honing the recipes and, you know, toying with things and getting them the way that I wanted them. So that was good. And also being in a brew pub environment where your customers are consuming your beer right in front of you is invaluable. It's so good because you can sit there and you can talk to customers. You could stand in the background and watch their expressions, you know, when they don't know if you're paying attention, or and you learn a lot that way. You learn a lot faster that way than you would, say, at the White Hag, where we just have a production facility. We put our beer into kegs, into cans, and we send it out into the world. And you know, you get a little bit of feedback, but it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a different way of brewing. Yeah. And maybe it's easier also to make experiments, little batches that have an immediate feedback from your consumer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the. Yeah.
Sorry?
Just go. Yeah, just go ahead. I interrupted you, but yeah, I will come back later on. So just.
No, I was just going to say, I think I was there from 2010 until I left, right, until 2014 when I left to come here. So all in all, I've been doing this and getting paid to do it since 2004. So about 16 years or so, you know. I guess I'm getting old.
Yeah. You mentioned the crisis in the in 2009, and obviously that's a crisis in the US and not only there, created issues in our small environment. Do you think that your ability to be like flexible and move part of your production to cans and things like that helped? Is obviously helping to go through our present crisis, but do you think that everyone else is doing the same? I mean, how is the situation over there as you perceive it?
Well, we had two things going for us that helped us out a lot. One was we had our own canning line. So a lot of the smaller breweries here would be doing contract canning, and that
Yep.
means they're relying, you know, on a third party, a separate company to come in and package their beer. There's only one company in this country that does that, Irish Craft Canners. And if all of a sudden everybody needs their beer in the cans at the same time, good for the canners, good for the contract canners, not so good for the breweries who are trying to wait in line for their turn to get the beer out. So us having the ability to package our own product made a huge difference for us. Also, we had our own online store, our online shop up and running about 3-4 weeks prior to the shutdown, and we had all the kinks and everything worked out there, and so that gave us the ability to immediately start selling beer, you know, directly to people who were stuck at home. And so obviously we were still continuing to work with you know, the off licenses and support those people as well, because you know, obviously we don't want to lose anybody in the line. We don't want to lose guys like you on the on trade, you know, doing the draft. We don't want to lose the off licenses who are also out there on a daily basis selling our products. At the same time, we also have to stay in business, you know, or else there will be no off licenses. If there's no breweries, there's no off licenses, then all you're left with is Heineken and Budweiser or something, you know. So, you know, it was a balancing act. I think we did really well in managing it. Also, at the same time, in Ireland, the law states that people have to buy at least one case of beer, so at least 8 liters of beer at a time, which means it's, you know, it's going to be a higher cost up front, whereas an off license can sell 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever. So you know, so there was a little bit of a, you know, a balancing act there, but it did help us, and we got through it. I actually had to hire people. We had to hire 4 people, because the amount of work involved in managing the online store and packing boxes and shipping and all that stuff. So that's a benefit. I see that as a benefit. We were able to add jobs, and in a small town like where we are, it's very important. It's very important for small businesses to be employing people and growing. So.
Yeah, true. Which is a major issue now, because with businesses closing down, we have this issue of a lot of restaurants and bars probably not reopening after the lockdown. So that will mean a lot of people losing their jobs, and the signs will be here pretty soon. But well, let's not talk about bad things. Let's think positive. Did you enter new markets during the lockdown? Like, I mean, supermarkets eventually, or big distribution companies, or did you do everything on your own, like direct?
Yeah, I mean, our export dropped drastically. So, and I would say that has a lot to do with the fact that a lot of other breweries in other markets were doing the same thing that we were, as in selling direct to consumers and things like that. So the whole thing changed. Like we were still doing some export, but a lot of our export before was in kegs. It's up 65-70% of our business was draft. So, and there was a lot of export that we did that was only draft. And so that, we lost that. But in the end, it was okay because we still had enough demand here at home that we could hardly keep up. I mean, we were doing double shifts and just trying to keep up. Again, like I said, it's a very slow process to can. We don't have a big fancy machine. It's like a 7-head filler, so you only fill 7 cans at a time. And it'll take you 16 hours to can 7,000 liters. So it's labor intensive and slow, but it worked out.
Well, that's good.
We probably wouldn't have been able sorry, Ivano, if our export demand was the same as it was before, we probably would have had to tell them no, we couldn't supply them. So it worked out.
Yeah, that's it's good. It's good to hear, and it's good. It's a good omen for probably other brewers as well. I mean, not everything went wrong during this lockdown period, and I saw many brewers here in Italy as well reacting swiftly and effectively to the situation. So hopefully, I'm not saying that all will survive. Hopefully, they will. And as for the pubs and restaurants, well, that's an issue yet to be sorted because there's limits to the business that you can actually do. But well, we'll see. In time, we'll probably recover. Did the situation demand a shift in yeah, in the way you produce beers? I mean, did you change any lines, moving to say easier to drink beers or longer shelf life, anything like that?
Well, I mean, my number one goal and agenda in producing beer has always been quality and flavor first. So, that's not ever going to change. But the one thing that I'm doing right now, and that I've pulled this from my previous experience with the last financial crisis of 2008, 2009, was that I learned then that when people lose their jobs, even with government support's never the same as what they would make at home for most people, or make it at work for most people. But so eventually people are going to have less money. And so for me right now, I see this starting to really catch up with everybody in the next month or so, and then probably progressively you'll see that continue and potentially even get worse until the end of the year. So even though we're opening up, the world is opening up, I don't think we've seen the bottom of the economy yet, because the knock-on effect of people having less money from not working. And obviously you might get behind on bills and things, those have to take a priority before they go out and spend money on a luxury item like a craft beer. So the one thing that I'm changing is I'm working really hard. The whole team is working really hard to produce some, like, I don't want to say cheap beers, but inexpensive beers that are still well-made, delicious craft beer. So people don't have to go back to, the cheap macro beers. I think that people still want to continue to support the breweries. So if we can find a way to put out a beer or a few beers that are as inexpensive as we can possibly produce them, I think that that's going to help both us and the consumer. So that's, I would say, is the big change I'm looking at now. And you'd be surprised, like a lot of people think that craft beer is expensive because we want it to be expensive. That's not it at all. It's expensive because there's so much more manual labor involved in producing what we produce. When you look at the big boys, they have everything's automated, so they don't have a lot of people working. It's all machines. Also, you know, when we buy cans, we're buying cans by the pallet, not the truckloads. You know,
Yeah, sure.
same thing with our grain. We're buying it by the pallet, not the truckload. So we don't have the buying power that they have. Everything for us is more expensive. And so, but we're trying really hard. We're looking at talking to our label, you know, our label people, the can manufacturers, and just trying to see how can we reduce the costs more, but still keep the beer delicious.
Big issue, but yeah, very interesting point of view. And do you think that this situation will affect other projects, such as I know that you have a barrel project, which is definitely the most expensive way of producing beer because regardless of the cost of the product itself, it's also a time-consuming process. So it takes a lot of time to bring the beer back on the market. Is this affecting your project, or basically you're doing the same thing in parallel with new idea of inexpensive beers?
Yeah, so the barrel project was pretty much on hold. Um, not because we wanted to, but it was a lot of it had to do with having the manpower to put out the you know, because our barrel project is extremely labor intensive. You know, you're talking about going through and selecting barrels for the blend, and then, you know, transferring each barrel one at a time into a tank, and you know, adding the sugar for bottle fermentation, and then you have to, because we use we do everything in cans. Our bottler is just it's a Guy 8-head hand filler, gravity filler, actually also made in Italy. I think, is it Turin? But yeah, and then it's got to be hand capped and hand labeled, and if we wax it, so we just didn't have the people. And but we did finally last week just release 2 beers from the barrel project. Our bourbon barrel aged black boar imperial stout, and it was just conditioning, you know, so that literally we got it bottled right before the shutdown, so that was, or else we wouldn't be releasing it. But and the black boar, the bourbon barrel's all in cans, so that was, we could get that out. But yeah,
All right.
at the end of the day, it's only affecting what we're producing, as in releasing from the project, but it's not going to hurt the beer in the barrels at all, because in fact, a lot of times, the more time I give them, the better they are.
Yeah, the better. Yeah, that's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So basically, what do you see in the future? You forecast like a drop in prices overall in our market, or is basically staying the same, and maybe having less consumers in the short term until everything goes back to normal, if ever, or
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, Ivano, I'm scared that that's going to happen. And like I said, I'm only basing this on my previous experience, you know, from the financial crisis of last decade. So, yeah, I don't know what it's going to do to the overall market. I don't ever claim to be a fortune teller. I can only speak from history that I've lived. But I definitely think that you'll see probably potentially even more breweries close, and obviously that's going to depend on each country, because each country has handled this situation differently. And so only time's going to tell. But like I said, I'm personally trying to find ways to reduce costs to help people continue to support us. Help me, help you, help me, kind of thing. So help you, help me, kind of thing. But when I say you'll probably see more, because I'm not going to be the only brewery that understands that people are going to have less money. And I'm not going to be the only brewer that understands that when people have less money, they start to drink more shit beer, So, and you can't blame them, because if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. So, craft beer is a luxury, and it, there's two ways of looking at it for me. In every market, since the beginning of time, you have really good breweries, okay breweries, and bad breweries. And generally, in a free market situation, one where you're not forced to buy something, when you have options, the whole idea is that the better product wins. And every now and then, these tough financial situations have a tendency to kind of remove and weed out the ones that aren't producing the best stuff. And that's good for the consumer. Ultimately, that's good for the consumer. It's sad. It's sad for the people that might lose their businesses. But whenever you remove them low-hanging fruits, the better stuff has a chance to grow even more. And then ultimately the level of quality will continue to rise. So I'm trying to look at it in the positive light. Hopefully we're one of the breweries that survive. Nobody can see the future, but I mean,
yeah, well,
so
obviously,
that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, we all hope so. And how's the? I remember your when we met in Dublin. That was 2017. You had this nice stand with a sofa, and I remember you sitting on the sofa, very relaxed. And that was the reason why I approached you, saying, "Oh, that's my brewer," for some reason. And from since then, I think a lot of things have changed for you. And what is the share that you had in the market between, say, local sales and foreign sales since then? How it did change, and what do you expect for the future?
Yeah, actually, and I don't think that has much to do with us, but the market in Ireland has matured substantially from the day that we met. And it's been significant since I've moved here in 2016. Our first couple of years was mostly focused on export, because Ireland wouldn't or couldn't support us as much as we needed the support. So we went immediately to the export market. Italy was one of the first, and still my favorite, probably. I love that place, and that. So, but since then, it has definitely started to balance out. We probably went from 70, I'd say around 70% export. Now I'm not the accountant for the business, so, but memory serves, we were around 70% export around the time I met you in 2017, and now we're probably at 50% or even slightly higher on domestic. So we probably be 55% domestic sales. And a lot of that has to do, like I said, with the maturation of the Irish craft beer scene, and it's grown, it's grown significantly. And then I'm sure the same has happened in Italy. I know when I was there, you guys had a really nice beer scene, but you could tell that it was still young and growing, and I'd say that I wouldn't be surprised if they've experienced the same thing there. It's just
Yeah,
maturing, you
basically
know.
what I think is, yeah, it's obviously like, yeah, the market matures in its own way. You can't actually direct that. The
Mm,
truth is that the Italian market is very, like, small segments working extremely well. Others still have to learn what the product is.
mm,
Overall, those craft beers is very, very limited, which is, on a certain, under a certain point of view, is actually a positive thing, because there's a lot of consumers to be reached and moved to a different way of drinking. So the potential is still there. Issues might be like, yeah, what the COVID issue uh, brought on the market. If our brewers are actually able to cope with that, and if we are as publicans able to survive this frame of time. But yeah, as you said, I mean, it's very unlikely that people who got used to drink good products is willing to go back to bad products. And
mm.
having that in mind, it might be that the market shrinks a bit in terms of number of producers, number of resellers. But overall, I think that the share will be stable, or even probably be better, because when there's less money available, people is keen into spending the less money in better things if it's possible. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's probably an opportunity rather than an issue. So I don't know. Well, but again, as you said, no, none of us can tell the future in advance. So, but then again,
Nope.
okay. So so is the brewery has been growing for quite a long time, and how many hectoliters is now producing? Well, it was producing before, and what is their expectation for 2021 now?
Well, we actually just recently ordered two more tanks. They are 80 hectoliter tanks, and they are due to arrive in 3 weeks' time. So those were ordered before the shutdown, and we were afraid that we were going to be stuck with tanks we didn't need. But turns out we needed them. We still need them, so that's good. Uh, Once those tanks are in, that will put us up to 10,000 hectoliters a year. And um, to be honest with you, I'd say last year I think we did 6.5. And now I only get these figures once or twice a year because again I'm not the not an accountant.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Um, and I actually
Yeah,
try to
fair
stay
enough.
away from the numbers. So yeah, but it's definitely. I mean, I think our first year we might have did maybe 1,200 hectoliters, you know. But every brewery is going to, you know, it's always going to be slow in the beginning unless you have something magical. Maybe you're well known and you had a lot of hype behind the opening. But um, but yeah, we've seen slow and steady growth year by year, and that's good. Um, we've maintained a very sustainable pace of growth. Um, you know, we never overshot our expectations on expanding. We didn't overextend ourselves with debt to say try to purchase more tanks than we needed or upgrade our brew house on our uh, very first brew house. It's a 35 hectoliter brew house, but I have had fabricators and welders in, and you might not even recognize it if you saw it in the beginning. So I've just constantly tried to improve the equipment as we went along instead of just buying new stuff all the time. So, it's good. We'll have, like I said, about probably I'd say between 9.6 and 10 hectoliters is what we're on target to do by the end of this year.
Right. Is this has this anything to do with the regulations in Ireland? I mean, do you have like a limit that states you are entitled like a craft brewery, and then over that limit you become like a big brewery or anything like that? I mean, I know that in UK
Well,
they have like a law that says 10,000 hectoliters. Under that 10,000, you pay less taxes. Um,
mm,
Over that limit, it changes not just a little bit, actually quite a lot. So sometimes it's better to
mm.
stay small, to under a certain level. Is it the same thing
It,
in Ireland?
well, I know that there's definitely there's a cutoff point, and we get a tax break for being smaller, but it's definitely not 10,000. I actually think it's somewhere. It's like 40 or 80,000 hectoliters. It's actually pretty substantial. Um, but there's not really anybody in between. There's maybe two breweries in the country uh, that are in between, say, a brewery our size and then the big boys. So
Yeah.
there's not. It's we have plenty of room to grow before we have to worry about losing our craft beer status, anyways. But it's just a matter, like
So it's good to
10,000
know.
hectoliters is just yeah, it's just a figure that works out because of the amount of tanks we have and the way our sales are. It wasn't done on purpose or anything.
I think we had about 3/4 of an hour chat on beers, on the situation of the market. Um, let's talk about life. So, how has your life changed recently? Um, is it any tougher or better
Well,
as what was used to be before the coronavirus virus? Sorry.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, we recently, I moved out to the country a year ago and haven't been happier. It's peaceful, it's quiet. Uh,
Yeah. So,
and
so
maybe
the
that's
picture you sent me, I mean, it looks like a lovely place, very quiet, and in the middle of nowhere. Is it true?
middle of nowhere, looking at a very, very old mountain every day when I wake up and I look out my window, no neighbors. It's nice. I know certain people love cities, but I cities make me tired. And
Yeah, that makes sense.
the hustle and bustle. So really enjoying that. You know, we were trying to go home. The biggest effect that we had. We were planning on going home at the end of this month, right after our Hag Extravaganza festival, and that those plans were canceled. I haven't been home in 2 years, so um, my kids need to see their grandparents, and so that's been a problem. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I can't complain. I mean, I was able to keep my job and keep doing what I do and what I love to do. I mean, my life definitely got more boring. I couldn't do jujitsu, and I basically just went to work to home, work to home, work to home, work to home, and even the grocery shopping, the buying of the food was all my wife. So I was actually out of my little strip that goes between work and home for the first time last Friday.
All right.
And
Yeah, I
so
understand that.
I actually hadn't realized that that was the first time in probably, since March that I'd been outside of that little uh mouse cage or hamster wheel that I was in.
Yeah, so it's yeah, it was a major change in everyone's life, and when we've been shut down since 8th of March, till we reopened on the 26th of May. So there was a huge amount of time in my under my point of view, because basically we never closed under normal
Mhm.
circumstances. So yeah, then again, it was a time when you had finally the means of looking back at what you do and how you do it, and I learned a lot of things. So I thought, well, basically, yes, I'm stuck at home, but I can still learn things and do things, and such as this radio,
Yeah.
which is part of the project of relaunching the whole business, and yeah, so again, being positive sometimes uh, helps things go in the right direction. Um,
Yeah.
any plans for a trip away from Ireland? Any plans for traveling again?
Yeah, we're talking about it. The travel is here in Ireland is still pretty restricted, but that should be lifted here in the next couple of weeks. They're still doing a like 2 week quarantine after you travel though. So if I wanted to take, 2 weeks holidays, then I actually have to take off 4 weeks from work. And not that I would mind taking off 4 weeks from work. Don't get me wrong. I
Maybe you
would
can
love
afford
to take
that.
because I haven't taken 0 weeks off of work since 2 years ago. And except for Christmas, we get a week. So I would definitely not mind an entire month away. But I don't know that my stress levels would be able to handle being away and not making sure that everything's going right, for that long. So we were actually talking about going back to Italy because our last family holiday was in Gaeta in
All right.
kind of southwestern Italy. Beautiful place. We were talking about that. We haven't had sunshine here on the west coast of Ireland for coming on 4 straight weeks. It's done nothing but rain, which it tends to do in June. So if anybody listening ever planning on visiting Ireland and you don't
Just
like
avoid
the
this,
rain,
this frame of time. Yeah.
avoid June. Um, April, May is always the best time because the ocean isn't warm yet, so it's not up here. And then so it's the ocean warming up that causes all the rain here. So you come just before summer, we always get the best weather. We had, geez, fortunately for my wife, because she was, at home with the kids through the whole lockdown, um, we had almost no rain for 2 months. It was gorgeous. It was in the 20s, so it was tolerable and dry. Everybody got sunburns, and except for me because I was working. But it was nice. But that's all changed. Back to summer as usual now. But yeah, we'd like to go back to Italy. And actually, she's been to Milan once. So uh, I'd like to show her more because I really enjoy Milan. You guys have a lot of really great food and things to do there, and people like yourself, fantastic people. So that's what we're trying to do now that I have more people that I trust. You've probably seen Mike there. Just check out his shorts. There's Mike, the lead brewer.
Hi, Mike.
Ivano, ciao, ciao,
Oh,
ciao
good guy.
ragazzi.
Ciao. How are you doing? Ciao.
We're all celebrating the 4th of July, Independence Day, so he's stars and striped out. But yeah, so
Yeah,
I don't
that
even know
makes
what I was
sense.
saying, but yeah,
That's
like,
why
oh
we
yeah, so
decided for Independence Patrick. That was that was the trick behind it.
yeah.
Independence Patrick. That was the
But
idea
yeah,
behind
so
the party
okay,
that we are having today. So we're probably partying and celebrating on the side.
yeah.
So if you feel
But
well,
yeah,
feel
like
free
I
to come
got
back
plenty of
to
people I
Milan
trust now.
anytime.
So Well, thank you.
Yeah, and
I miss my friends.
and then yeah, I understand that, and we miss the extravaganza uh, uh, event that I know that you're doing something online, really, like delivering beers from the brewery straight to the final consumer for this year edition. But this means that probably next edition will be as bigger and bigger than ever. Yeah, well, at least that's what
I'm
we
really
hope.
looking forward to.
Yep. So it's been great to have you with me for a few minutes today, and hopefully we'll meet and have a chat together at a bar with a beer in front of us. Um, Hopefully soon, and if not, well, what matters? Then we'll drink anyway. Thank you again for staying with us, and take care. We hope to see you soon back to the and drink again your beers. That's what I'm doing now. So cheers, ciao,
Cheers,
sigla.
Ivano. Thank you for having me.
Cheers, ciao.